Hello everyone, welcome to Sound Engraver, or the channel. Welcome to me, Sound Engraver. Just checking. Okay, good. I sound great. Okay, good. Well, I hope you guys have had a happy Sunday. And thank you for listening to my 7 minutes of Azure, my recent release, as recent as about a week ago. Very proud of that piece. It's not a posing piece. I'm not a poser. I am a composer. I just made that up. Actually, I'm pretty proud of that. Yeah, no AI. That was all me. So thank you for listening to that. It's a very happy, upbeat piece to start your summer season. And yeah, and you can get it off of my website, soundengraver.com. I'll just go ahead and post that, soundengraver.com. And if you join the mailing list, if you're not already on the mailing list, you can get that $2 album for free. So let me go ahead and stop sharing that. Very good. That's also my new, well, it's not really that new. This, again, I'm not posing to play violin. I actually do play violin. That picture actually was based on, or it came from a video clip of little excerpts that I did. So there you go. I'm a true and blue violinist, a true and blue artist. I'm not going to toot my own horn this stream, I promise. Yeah, let's get started. Actually, I'm going to open the door because it's getting to be very warm this season. We're also having some thunder showers overhead, so we'll see how the connection fares. But let me open the door so the cool air comes in. 1 second. I think I have everything ready. Just gonna make sure my Wi-Fi is good. Yep, Wi-Fi is good. Oh, I think I did forget to shut off one thing. If you will just spare me a moment, 1 sec. Not very organized today. Just making sure I've got the best connection. Yeah, okay. That should be good. And then we'll welcome the chat and talk about art posers. All right. Let me turn off the camera, or turn on the camera rather. Yeah, very good. So, oh, my hair's kind of frizzy today. That's okay. Got to get it cut. It's not quite great for this summer, but that's okay. All right. Well, of course, my prof is going to say the opposite. Thank you. It looks a little dark today. It's kind of whatever. That's okay. It's actually quite a dark day. It's kind of a stormy day. So anyway, let's go ahead and welcome the chat, and it will definitely be an honest discussion. I mean, I'm always honest. Maybe even candid. Maybe even out there. But when it comes to art, I have very strong opinions about these things. And thank you for coming to listen to my opinions. They're opinions, so be it. And you can agree, you can disagree, but let's talk about art. But first, let's welcome the chat. We've got Professor Geek, channel member, of course, saying AI is plagiarism. So is Big Al. And then all the way down here, we've got Big Al saying, "Hey." Yeah. Poor Al. That it's a shame that AI usurped the true meaning of Al. We got Ace Moic. Good afternoon, Madame SE, and all the meat bags in the comments. Good to see you. Ghost Planet, also good to see you. You said you were coming in late, but you came just in time. We got Private Eye, wishing us hello, and Brian Gilmartin says, long time no see. Also, I can't help feeling like we've been in a world of poser art or art posers for at least a good decade and a half. I would, I would say I think that's good. You said decade and a half, giving it like 15 to 20 years. I think that's really good because, as Prof has been saying for a long time in his streams, I think culture has really died. I think culture suffered a ground zero day. I'm going to say probably 2009, 2010. Some people say earlier. Some people say as far as back as the 90s, and that could be true. But I'm gonna say 2010. Like right when I was witnessing the rise of the entrepreneur movement and things like using social media as your way of making a business and all of that. So there we go. Let's continue on down. Thank you, Big Al. You say you wish me a great show. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Kaiju will steal your bride. Yeah. Speaking of kaiju, if you hadn't seen Professor Geek's stream last night, it's pretty honest. He's gonna, if you don't want to see it in long form, he'll snip some clips out of his reviews of different things, including Godzilla Minus One, the movie, and he actually got a lot of respectful feedback, shall we say. I think the days of the Snyder Bros criticism is over. I think he weeded those people out pretty quickly. So people who do disagree with him, who still listen to him, they're like, okay, we see this is where Prof is coming from. We don't agree with it, but we'll take it as is. And I think that's good. I think that's the audience to have, like, just because, so like if you're a fan of anything and you have something, even the slightest bit of criticism of the thing for, what you are a fan of which you are a fan, that's the way to say it. Get ready. People are going to just chuck ammo at you, on all fronts, with all burning all cylinders. That's the phrase I was looking for in my head. George Barrett, you say good afternoon just in time for the sound. Great, good. Yeah, that was the website, Sound Engraver. I'll try to get a snippet just to put, but I don't mind putting it. I mean, maybe I can just always start with the video, or always start the stream with my just my website up there. Why not? But we'll see. We'll see. New track sounds awesome. Thank you. I worked really hard on that track. Really hard for those 7 minutes. And 2 weeks before I released the track, I was thinking, man, the sound is not working. And I think I need to just give myself a little bit of, I don't want to say slack. I would just say give myself a little bit of positive feedback, like internal positive feedback, because it came out okay. Like, it came out better than I was expecting 2 weeks before. Like, the sound, the violin is not working. And then I realized I just needed to apply a few tricks. Not tricks. I mean, it takes a little bit of thinking, a little bit of intuition and ingenuity. But I got a sound that I was happy with. Yeah. Turtle. What does the turtle mean? What does the turtle mean? Tell me, Big Al. I don't know what the turtle means. Ace is talking to Ghost Planet. Final Fantasy, good to see you. Talk about, George Barrett says, talk about setting an atmosphere. Good show, Sound Engraver. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Audio sounds good as well. Good. All right. Now let's continue on down with the chat before we get into the discussion. I still may cough. I maybe it's allergies now. I'm not sick. I think I just have always, well, not always, but just for the last few weeks, just a little lingering congestion. So if I clear my throat, I will, and I'm going to mute it because I think mouth sounds and throat sounds are disgusting. All right, you guys are talking about games amongst yourselves. That's cool. Yeah, that's a good part of the community. I'm still on Majora's Mask. I'm taking such a long time going through that game, and it's not because I dislike it or I'm bored with it. I'm a slow gamer. Like, I just take my time in the world. I just kind of make sure I'm doing at least most of the things. Sometimes I just need a guide, Like, when I was a 90s kid, we would buy the manuals. Fortunately, there are very good manuals out there online for free. But it's good because I would be really lost without those walkthroughs. He was wrong. I respect him, but he was wrong. LOL. All right. Mention Gamera? Giant turtle kaiju. Thank you. Is that how you pronounce it? Gamera? Gamera? Turtle wins the race. That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah. All right, let me grab some water real quick. All right, so now it's light. That's weird. Maybe I'll just, well, that's a little too light. Is this too bright for you guys? See if I can dim it. Okay, I dimmed it a little bit. Okay. So we welcome the chat. I'm so glad to have you, and we're going to be talking about art posers. Hopefully I'm sure the sound is fine. I have the door open, which allows in for more reverberated acoustics, but that's okay. It's just too hot to keep the door shut because I have no AC in here. It's all out there. Okay, so let's talk about art posers. Let's talk about the age. Thank you, Prof. Let's talk about the age of that we've entered in. I say we've entered in, but we've already been in the age of the art posers, and there are a number of different factors that we can discuss, and maybe you have some ideas. If you want to throw that in the chat, I'm more than happy to talk about that with you. Oh, Crystal Ashes, I gotta welcome you. Just dropping by to say hi, feeling under the weather. Oh, sorry. I'll catch the replay later. Have a wonderful stream. I am so sorry to hear that. I hope it's a light sickness. I hope it's not like anything like a fever or food poisoning or whatever. So hopefully you're feeling better and getting enough rest and sleep. Started drinking lemon water at night. Not every day, but maybe 4 or 5 days of the week. Because I need that extra vitamin C because I'm always with students, even in the summer. I'm always with coughing, sneezing, spitting students. So I'm just like up the ante with my vitamin C intake. Anyway, let's talk about art posers. People, okay, what is a poser? People who claim something people who claim they are something that they are not. And we've run into this problem in a lot of different ways, but I kind of want to focus on a couple of things. I have been focusing mostly in the last recent months on AI, where people are saying, well, now I can do something that before was impossible for me to do, which to me translates to, oh, you still can't do it. You say you can, but you can't. If it's impossible for you before the AI machine did it for you, it's still impossible for you. So we'll get that out of the way. And if you still wanted to talk about AI, that's fine. But I'd like to actually start the discussion with something that we've been really seeing unfold really in recent months. I hate to bring this up, and I don't think this is the sole factor, but ever since the new administration, presidential administration of the United States of America, we won't get into the politics of it, but it really was a turning point for a lot of things with our culture. A lot of people who were timid or afraid of saying things are now way out in the open. And certain things in the entertainment space, how do we begin this? How do I start this conversation? Because I want to approach this carefully and charitably. Basically, in the last, I think Brian Gilmartin put the correct timestamp on that. In the last 10 to 15 years, we've been in this culture, a kind of culture, like really it's a subculture. It's not really actual culture. The subculture space of just being overly critical, over criticizing the bad entertainment space. Now, I think we ought to. I think we need to bring up bad art when it says it's good art, or when it lies to you, as we've seen with a lot of different things, like saying I'm this, but that art piece is not that. Don't say it is. Don't say what's the opposite of what's true. Don't say the opposite of what's true. And we saw that a lot. You have your handful of examples. I have my handful of examples. I mean, if you want a real example, not that I've seen it, but what producers of the Foundation series is, what they're saying, what the writers behind that project and the actors and stuff, what they're saying about, certain, like Asimov, like they're making assumptions of a dead man. They're presuming something a dead man can't say and speak for himself, or defend against. So that's one example. We want to call out the bad. We've also had entertainment, arts and entertainment have been littered with ideology and messaging and all that. And we've lived in a decade now. We've kind of passed the decade now where, oh, well, let me put it to you this way. We've, in the last 10 to 15 to 20 years, we've, with different factions and with different influencers, we've called out the bad. And we have followed people. We have followed commentators and YouTube influencers in particular. We've followed them because we like saying we've called out the bad. I think I hear myself in the other room. So this was kind of setting up the stage. Hopefully, let's just say we've all been aware of YouTubers, influencers, commentators. Just putting the mainstream entertainment through the ringer. And for a time, and maybe some of you, for a time, we followed these major players in the YouTube space, these commentators. I probably for a year or two, maybe even longer than that. I've listened to some people that I now refuse to listen to. I refuse to go onto their channel and I refuse to watch their videos because the calling out the bad, yes, reasonably so. It's generated a lot of popularity. It's generated a lot of clout. It's generated a lot of momentum. It's generated a lot of money. Now that the new presidency, now that the new administration is intact, things that have been criticized, for instance, woke ideology, things that have been criticized for many years in the entertainment space, is receding. It's not going away. In fact, I don't think it will disappear completely. It will stay dormant. I think it's the sleeping giant. It's going to take on another form in 5 or 10 years. Whatever form that takes, I can't guess. But it's not going to go away. It's not going to be destroyed. But people, major corporations, major companies, I mean, even for the long celebrated Pride Month, people are just kind of backing off. Like people say, "Oh, it's Pride Month again." I'm like, I'm not singing it. Okay, I'll take that back. I see that in the company I work for in the corporate emails, but it's still. It's not in your face as much as it has been. And I think that in and of itself, the influence of that celebrated month will recede over time. I think this is the first year. And maybe the pendulum will swing again. But anyway, all this to say is the woke ideology, the messaging is going to either recede or if it continues, things like movies and cinema and major media projects like games and stuff, they'll be penalized. They'll be socially and economically penalized, however long that takes. So anyway, I hope that set up the stage. Maybe that was a long rant. I'm going to get to the point right now. So these commentators of we now colloquially call them the anti-woke crowd. They've made their money, they've made their point, but now that the ideology that they've long criticized is receding, is going away, they got to turn their sights onto something else. And it's been a recent phenomena. And the recent phenomena as well, I can't keep saying the same thing for the last 10 to 15 years, or definitely the last 10 years. So what should I do? Well, I have all this clout. I have all this following. I'm going to stop criticizing entertainment and I'm going to start making my own entertainment. Now, that's good. I think that's I think that's a really good idea. The problem is they're relying on their clout and their parasocial influence to generate more income. Man, I hope I'm starting the stream right. Am I starting the stream right? Let's see. Well, let me just continue my point. But sorry, guys, I'm kind of going in this cold. But anyway, these commentators who have made all their money and time and attention on, calling out the bad woke ideology, well, they're like, well, let's make our own entertainment. But it's really come to surface. It's really come to light as the messaging they're criticizing is going away. So that's kind of my point. Now, all in all, that's not a bad idea. It's like, okay, you want to write your own book, you want to write your own graphic novel, you want to maybe draw something or put up a project, a campaign. That is good. But what we are also saying is that some of these commentators, I think people are finding out that they are just commentators. They're just influencers. They're not artists. I'm not saying all of them are deceiving their fans, but a lot of people are. A lot. Some of these commentators in the independent art and entertainment space, they're calling themselves writers. They're calling themselves artists. They're calling themselves entertainment makers, I guess, if you want to say that, and art makers. When they're really producing crud or subpar material. And that is unfortunate because some of these people, in some cases, they had made their living off of criticizing mediocre garbage. And then now we're seeing to light that some of these people are producing the same level of mediocrity. Maybe there's no woke messaging. That's fine. But it's like that shouldn't be the standard. Like, well, at least it's not a message. At least it's not preaching to you. At least it's not woke. It's like, no, you're committed. You're dedicated to make a piece of art. So it needs to be good. It needs to be a piece of art. But because that hasn't been the case with some people, I'm not going to name names. You guys might know who I'm talking about, but we'll just keep it, under the rug. Unless you want those examples, but I'm probably not going to name names. I don't really feel good about it, but it's come to light that these projects, these art projects, these entertainment projects have not been good. And the success of projects have not been as good as anticipated. And I'll get into the chat, and then I have some ideas about just like YouTube influence in general. And just because you have a following, just because you're talented as a commentator, just because you're great as a video maker and editor, does not make you an artist. It makes you a good influencer. It makes you a good thought leader, as people say. By the way, I hate that. I actually don't really care for the word influencer, but I definitely don't care for the phrase thought leader. I'm like, I would never be a thought leader. So let me get into the chat and then talk about a specific example without naming names. I probably should have started. We're already in minute 30. Should have started with that. Let's see. George Barrett. See, I don't know anything about recent pop culture news. You say, and now after the elections, it looks like they're giving us a white Black Panther too. Well, I didn't know about that. I don't think, like, the original Black Panther is a black man. Like, keep him black. That's weird. There might be a counter response that I'm not sure about. But again, I'm not following the latest projects. Let's see. In other words, reject groupthink, embrace objectivity. Yes, I'm going to put that up. That is worthy of posting. Embrace objectivity. Embrace the pursuit of making good art. Final Fantasy fan is saying, on I guess on Major Elites sponsoring the dross, you say it's going under and renaming itself as the Bridge, and perhaps may change to another name just to find loopholes in the language. Yeah, so I don't think sponsoring or helping certain ideologies and stuff, I don't think that's going to go away. But I still think it's up to people. I think it's up to you and me to be really responsible with what we look at, what we read, what we watch, and talk about the good stuff. Talk about real art. Real art, not art made by the grifters, not art made by mainstream media if they have not been responsible for making good art for art's sake. I know people don't like that phrase, and I can understand why. George Barrett continues, I feel for you. In my opinion, the megatubers who profited feeding off. Let's pull this up if you don't mind, because this is what I was trying to get to. If I, hopefully, I spoke clearly. I feel for you. In my humble opinion, the megatubers who profited off of feeding off of fan hate for woke art have made comics and films that show very little talent, as far as I've seen, and that's where we need to put their feet. I think we need to put their feet to the fire and to call out that behavior. This is one reason why, besides talking about Hyperion and the Red Rising, I've really backed off talking about bad science fiction. Because why? I'm writing science fiction. I aim to publish science fiction. And I actually just want to talk about good science fiction, like good stories that have influenced me, good writing, good concepts, good themes. Like that's where I hope to, maybe in the next year, like 2026, the more sci-fi stuff I focus on will be classics. I've had a great time reading H.G. Wells, who back then, he lived in the turn of the century from the late 1800s to the 1900s. He, as an Englishman of that time, I think he was known to be a socialist. That's a very different viewpoint, like a socialism, like being a socialist in the turn of the century. Yes, of course, it had its foundations, but it's a very different term back then than it is now, because I don't think H.G. Wells would have thrown a can of soup on a Van Gogh painting. I think he would have been appalled by that. But here's my point. H.G. Wells, Isaac Asimov, these people can have diametrically opposed opinions, from where I stand. I will always love H.G. Wells' stories, especially his famous stories. They're so good. And he doesn't have to have the same worldview as I have. His stories are timeless. They're seminal, and they've lasted for a reason. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But thank you, George Barrett, for bringing that up, because we will talk about that. Brian Gilmartin says they ended up producing the flip side, the very thing they lambasted for a decade. Yeah, and this is where the hypocrisy is coming from, because I speculate. I'm not saying this is really their motive, but all this, you make so much money, as you say, lambasting media and entertainment, and then you take it upon yourself to make an alternative form of entertainment, and it's not up to snuff. And then you get criticized and you get mad for the criticism. It's like, well, listen, that's you built your reputation. You built your reputation on being very, very critical, like hypercritical. And yeah, maybe some of what you say is fair and is reasonable, and maybe you should call out on some stuff. But my goodness, if you're gonna make art, you don't want to suffer criticism, you got to make sure it's 100% yours, it's 100% unique, and it's good. And we've seen some cases where the opposite is true, unfortunately. Adiga Outlaw, good to see you. The posers abound. There's a lot more in the writing sphere now. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I had a fun discussion on X with someone who claimed to write, though AI does most of what he claims in his art. I laughed hard. This is a poser. Who you spoke to on X is a poser, saying, well, I am a writer. You had AI write most of your stuff, then you're not a writer. You're the verb write. The action write. Are you writing? No, I'm having AI do it. Then you're not writing. And therefore, you're not a writer. It's easy. It's easy. Hello, Scorpiopio. Man, I hate posers, says Private Eye. Their words feel so empty and generic. Writers of the same genre tend to be very bitter rivals, like fantasy writers or mystery writers or sci-fi writers. Those writers, they ruin their novels. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. And I'm going to try to have a line of logic with this stream. This is truly a stream of consciousness. Right, stream of consciousness, yeah. Let's talk about a very specific example. You may know who I'm talking about, and I won't mention his name, but he's a very, very famous YouTuber, and he is currently launching, or he has currently launched, a campaign of an autobiography. Maybe you know who I'm talking about just by using that word, autobiography. And it's there's so much to talk about with just this scenario, but we have this famous YouTuber who's been an uber critic of popular culture for years on end now, and he's built a following. He's probably made a ton of money on his YouTube, ton of clout on YouTube for criticizing mainstream media, Disney, all of that. He's said things like Star Wars is dead, MCU. You guys know who I'm talking about. Let's leave it at that. And you know what? For a year or two before I moved to Virginia, I was exploring YouTube in the indie comic space. Like I was listening to this person as much as I was listening to Professor Geek for about a year or two, and then I just lost interest in general. And I didn't follow I just got tired. You know, like, yeah, cool. You talk about how bad something is again, and now he's set up his campaign, and I don't think it's a specific indie campaign. I think actually he is paying a corporate package to get this autobiography sent to bookstores and all of that. But anyway, he's writing an autobiography of his life, from being a druggie who probably overdosed a couple times, or he set himself up for success as a YouTuber. But I find it strange that maybe that is an interesting life, you know, recovering maybe twice, like 2 times in your life of doing drugs and going through rehab. That's fine. Write your autobiography with that. But going from there to a YouTuber, it's like, yeah, okay, you're a YouTube sensation, but like, did you help win a war? Did you write an award-winning film that's going to last for generations? Are you an athlete? Like going from drugs to being, well, athlete's probably a bad example because I'm sure people use steroids still. I don't know anything about sports. So anyway, he's interesting project. Okay, look, you got a fan base. People are gonna buy your book. I understand that, but it's been circulated, and I haven't looked into it. I watched a video of this editor lady who was defending this YouTuber for hiring a package that included ghostwriting. And I think with the rise of AI, writing things for people, for writers, in conjunction with bashing bad art and mainstream entertainment, I think this YouTuber is receiving reasonable flack for getting someone else to write his autobiography. He should have just called it a biography. So he bought this, I think based on what this girl editor YouTuber is saying, he's purchased this package. And this package includes not only ghostwriting, because it's a big expensive package, not only ghostwriting, but having his works on all displays, all bookstores and all, getting this YouTuber on major player podcasts, maybe like Joe Rogan even. So he's buying he's dropping some coin to get not just a book published, but also, you know, not just getting it ghostwritten and stuff, but he bought the package to just get a bigger name for himself. And let me just start with this, because we're already in minute 40. I'm not saying he's an artist. I'm not saying he's a writer. But this is going to be the example that sets the precedent. Like, I made this book not for the sake of the book, not for the sake of the art piece. I made this book to get to higher platforms. And I'm going to say, just be real, if you're a serious artist, that should not be the priority. It shouldn't even be the secondary priority. You need to write a book. You need to make art for the sake of making it good, for the sake of making it beautiful for the sake of making it timeless. If you are writing a novel with the hope or the plan of having it be a Hollywood blockbuster, first of all, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. But even if you were successful, that's not the right objective. You need to write the novel. You need to write the story because it's a good story and it can work in the novel or work in the short story or work in the graphic novel, whatever your art medium is. It's like, I want to make this comic graphic novel because I want it to be in Hollywood someday, or I want it to be in a like, top viewed Netflix film or whatever. It's like, especially these YouTubers who had made their living criticizing Netflix, criticizing Disney, criticizing the major player news outlets and stuff. And then they in some ways, I'm not saying Joe Rogan is mainstream, even though like he's main, yeah, he's legit. But it's like, are you doing this for art? Are you doing this for true good entertainment? Or do you want to just hop on the next shiny vehicle and say, well, I want to make, I'm really not an artist. I'm really not a writer. I want to make a name. I'm just making this book. I'm just paying this ghostwriter. I'm just paying this corporate package just so I can be elevated even more. And the editor lady, she was defending him, saying, well, this guy, he just wants to create a name for himself, make a legacy. It's like, you don't make a legacy for yourself. Like, your work is your legacy. Your art is your legacy. And I'm sorry for YouTube commentators. I'm sorry for you influencers out there. Opinions don't last. They don't last beyond the present day. I have my strong opinions right now. I understand that. I'm giving you my very strong opinions right now. But my opinion does not last. What lasts, or what would last, is an epic sci-fi classic or an epic piece of music. I myself will go into the shadows. I myself as a person will recede. I will not be remembered 3 generations from now. One is we have our happy little family, but right now, like, anyway, progeny or longevity. I don't know what the word is. We're just in a loving family situation where we're just not able to have, the next generation, And I'm not saying this bitterly. I'm just saying people have this idea, like, I need to be a legacy. I need to, like, you'll be remembered as far as your children and grandchildren. And then that's it. What's going to be your legacy is what you leave, like your thoughts, your like written down, or your works. Like that's actually what it ought to be. I think artists and artists suffer from this egomania. And I'm not saying just mainstream artists. I'm talking about, people in the 20th century art movements, people getting into the turn of the century of the 1900s. I know we do understand that artists can struggle with an unhealthy ego. There's a healthy ego, there's an unhealthy ego. And if that unhealthy ego goes unchecked, you put so much of you into the art, and you're not letting the art breathe. And you're not going to let the art survive. Now, going back to the YouTubers with their clout and their commentary, it's like your opinions, it's, YouTube especially, your legacy rests on the infrastructure of Silicon Walley. So you better start making some good art if you're really serious about your legacy. And the legacy is not going to rest on you. And this is where the female editor YouTuber was wrong. She's like, well, he just wants to leave his legacy for his children and grandchildren. It's like, well, then he needs to be remembered by the actions of doing good work at the church or whatever, or teaching at a school or whatever, having prestige in different ways. But it's like, you writing an autobiography that you didn't write, that you put a ghostwriter to write, to get onto places like Joe Rogan or whatever. It's like, that's not going to leave any legacy. You're not going to be remembered. I'm not saying you have to be remembered. You don't have to be remembered. That it doesn't have to be a goal, but what is up with people trying to do these art pieces just to get to the next shiny thing? It's like, no, you make art because that art needs to be made. And that's it. That's it. This was I think RJ from the Fourth Age was talking about it with, what's her name? Sana Amanat, who was picked up because of certain identity checkboxes. And she started working in comics, never having any experience or any love of comics, so she could work in the mainstream filmmaking production experience. Like, so she could go to Marvel Studios, so she could go to Hollywood. Like, that's not the reason why you should work in a comic book industry. Comic book, not comic movie. It's like, you're there because you believe in the importance of your work, It's like, you need to be satisfied with its own thing. And so this is one, probably of many examples that we're witnessing. This is one thing where we're seeing these people, these YouTube influencers, or maybe all influencers who think, well, if I launch this project, this entertainment project, then I'm going to get to the next thing. And it's like, maybe, but that should not be the objective. I'm not going to take your art seriously if you think that. Like, if I told you, or if I believed that, I want my long epic fiction to be made into a movie, it's like, awesome if that happens. Well, I wouldn't trust it to happen this day and age. I'd probably die before it'd be an actual good movie. But that's not my objective. Like, I'm there to write a novel. Like Tolkien himself, like, people came to him and say, we want to make this a film. We want to make this a play. And he's like, no. Like, or maybe he allowed them, I don't know, but he didn't believe his stories were filmable at the time. He was given that. He's like, The Lord of the Rings is an unfilmable book. And he passed away in the 70s, I think. Yeah, I think he passed away in the 70s. Like, this is long before Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. He went in knowing, like, he lived his life, and he was in his 60s when Lord of the Rings took the world by storm. He said, no, this is not a filmable book. This can't be translated into a play. I think he was actually, I think I read in some book many years ago that he was shocked to see a play adaptation of Lord of the Rings. I think I read that one time. But anyway, he goes in. Tolkien lived his life knowing at the time it could not be made into a film. And he also went in, I know this now, like reading his this scholarly work called Tolkien, what is it called? The High Hollow of Tolkien's liturgical imaginations, is that he was only invested in the body of the work that is the novel, that is the book. And I think there's so much to that. It's like, please do a graphic novel for the sake of the graphic novel. Please write that short story for the sake of the short story. Like, just please, please, please write something for the sake of that thing. And that's what I took issue with this very popular YouTuber who is making an autobiography. It's really a ghostwritten biography. And I would think that this person already has such a following. I would think that they would be more interested in hearing his own words. And you know what? I would be lenient if it comes to poor quality. And this editor lady, she was saying, he's successful. And she said these words. I can tell her, what's her channel name? The Free Nonsense Editor. I think that's her channel name. I've never seen her before. I didn't know her until I was looking up the news and circulating, and I see that she was defending this YouTuber. So actually, once you see her video, you'll know who I'm talking about, and then you can leave your comments in the description below or under the description. Anyways, she was saying, well, this YouTuber, obviously he's so successful, he doesn't have time to write his autobiography. Whereas, and she said this, she should not have put this in her video. She said, whereas and she has a pretty substantial channel, whereas I and most of my listeners were not as successful. Therefore, we have time to write our own stuff. It's like, what? What? So uber successful people don't have the time to write their own autobiography. And maybe that's true. Maybe people, because they're so successful, they haven't had time. But that doesn't give them the excuse that they should leave it to someone else to write it for them. Like, okay, so they're uber successful. They should give themselves the time, like I'm giving myself the time to learn the craft. Oh, he's so successful. He doesn't have time to learn his craft. Just like, or the craft of writing. I was like, whoa, that is some, first of all, that's some assumption you're making of your listeners. Maybe you do have some uber successful listeners who actually appreciate the craft of writing. And I was shocked when I heard that. Anyway, I'm going to go to the chat because I could just ramble on, and we'll talk about other things too, but let me grab water real quick and see what you guys have to say. All right. So what do you guys have to say? You guys have a lot to say. Hey, Sentinel, just good to see you. You say calling yourself a writer using AI is like calling yourself a musician, but having multiple different writers and song arrangers with autotune to create the song and lyrics with you singing on it. I think that was, I'm not so into the songwriting space, with autotune. Every time I hear autotune, it's kind of funny how you can kind of hear autotune through like car windows if you're passing by a car that's parked and you can hear the autotune so well and like it's autotune. Yeah, I mean, what's up with when you do see, I would say that's a valid point. When you do see a very famous musician, maybe they can sing and maybe they can play guitar or whatever, and I think that's great. But I really prefer people who write their own stuff. I mean, maybe it's a team effort, maybe it's the effort of the band, or maybe you write your stuff and then you have someone produce it so well. I mean, I think I've used the example before, but I think Billie Eilish, yeah, she's popular, whatever. It's her brother that does the magic. It's her brother that makes very interesting musical choices and artistic choices. She sings, I guess. Probably shouldn't be so critical of Billie Eilish, but it's her brother that makes the magic happen as a producer and as a sound artist or whatever he's called. But yeah, I would prefer songwriters. I would prefer musicians who sing their songs to be the actual songwriters. Have editors, have feedback or whatever, but that should be your song. It really should be your song. You say also everyone will assume you wrote the entire thing because you're the one singing it, but you didn't create it. Yeah, you are a musician if you could sing it. That's no problem. But when you call yourself a songwriter and you actually didn't write the song, it's like you're a singer of somebody else's song. And people need to be honest with that. I'm fine with that. All right. Let's see. Private Eye says one of the things that Zach taught us, I think you're talking about your boy Zach. I don't follow his channel, but I know he's really popular. One of the things that Zach taught us was that comics should not be a stepping stool or a stepping stone. It should be the goal. Yeah, the comic medium, the comic book medium. If you're working in the comic book, you're working in the comic book. You're not saying, well, if I make this comic book, then this will be an animated show or something. It's like, if that's the organic process, then that's fine. By the way, I want to be very clear. Like, if someone took one of my short stories, for instance, and then just took off with it and asked, hey, can I make this a short animation? I'm not going to say, well, depending on who it is, depending on the contracts, I'm not going to say, no, you can't do that. That's mine. It's like, no TV, no video games, no movies. I was like, oh, if it comes to be, it comes to be. But my point is, that should not be the objective. Like, your objective, like, if you want to be, it should be simple logic, really. If you want something of yours to be a movie, you just need to learn to be a filmmaker and do the movie, not the book or the comic book. Yeah, that's a really good point. Scorpio says, I saw a vid about that being the point of all this, gaining access to higher levels of whatever. I hadn't thought of it like that before. I think I'll be interest. It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. All right. Private Eye says, my grandpa and dad died like 15 years ago, and to this day, I find people they either touched or helped a lot in life. That's a good legacy. No, that's good. That is good, but it will be important to keep passing on the legacy, or it will go. And the thing is, I'm not actually against. Not again. Let me put it this way: it's not a bad thing that people are inevitably forgotten. You know, it's not a sad. It shouldn't be a sad thing, especially if you like. For I do believe there is a heaven after life, and there's life after death. So I mean, I'm eternally minded anyway. As a Christian, I have hope for better things anyway. So if you had that hope, then the whole being forgotten is not a loss to me, because well, as Christians believe, your thoughts and your deeds are recorded in the book of life. So you got to get your act together, and that's the thing for Christians to look toward. Now, if you're not religious or at all, then I get that. But like being forgotten, it shouldn't be like a terrible thing, you know? It's like, and if you want your stuff remembered, that's a good goal too. But it's got to be your stuff. It's got to be your art. It's like it doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be me. Yeah, Sentinel makes a good point. I'd like to be remembered as a great father and husband. You will be by your spouse and by your children. Brian says it's the same thing with the YouTube skeptics from the late 2000s, early 2010s. They all eventually fell off when the evangelical neocon movement lost influence. I'm not really familiar with that part of society. I mean, but yeah, like I can imagine it's the same behavior. Mm. Now you guys are talking about music? Interesting. Go from video games to music. George Barrett says, I see no difference between this writer and the temporary execs of a current production regime who ruin a good book or screenplay, split the spoils, head for the hills of early retirement. It's like, you know, if you make your I know this is harsh to hear, but if you do make your income criticizing and you do the same thing, you gotta expect people will hold your feet to the fire. And I think that's reasonable, you know? I think that's totally reasonable. Um, yeah, this editor YouTuber lady, she fronted her video. She started her argument like 2 minutes in with oh every she made the assumption, a horrible assumption, that this guy is getting criticized because people hate him. It's like, I think he's getting criticized because he's being a hypocrite. So, yeah. This Joseph's Corner. Good to see you. If I wanted to make an animated show, I would just make an animated show. Logic. In fact, I made one episode of animation already. Well, good for you. Do you have it on YouTube? Or another platform? Ace says, people take the wrong lessons from works of Alan Moore and Frank Miller, but they never learned the medium itself is worth committing to. I like the way you put that. Yeah, the medium itself is worth committing to. Yeah. And for whatever you, like, I don't know really much anything about Alan Moore. I know he's very famous, and I know he's said things that have made people mad. But I could probably safely guess that he's very into his writing. You know, he is a writer. You don't have to like his writing or whatever, but he is a writer. Yeah. All right. Let's continue on down. Oh, YouTube channel, Swiss Joseph Corner. Cool. Awesome. Great. All right. So that's toward the end of the chat. So kind of wanted to talk about this. We could talk about AI, but we could also talk about ghostwriting. I understand that many people, celebrities, politicians, artists, major players, and major world changers. I understand that autobiographies have been written by a ghostwriter. But Professor Geek makes a really good point. We were talking about it, and it's like it gives if you're hiring a ghostwriter to write a memoir, write an account, a good persuasive account of your life, maybe a fictional, not fictional, but elaborate, like a good elaborate account of your life. It's like, well, that's good, but I think your own words are more precious than the words of a ghostwriter. Now, I know ghostwriters go in thinking, I'm not going to get credit, I'm just going to get paid. I know that's the contract, but there's something so precious about putting your thoughts down because your thoughts are made tangible. Professor and Geek and I were talking about that. I think someone like Jordan Peterson has mentioned that too. Like your words are the immaterial becoming material, becoming translated to another person, and it's very, very special. And you could maybe sort of get like at least the basic ideas down with a ghostwriter, but that it's not your words. And especially if you have a following, a loyal fan base, even if your writing lacks, even if it's not the best book in the world, it's your book. It's what you did. And Professor Geek was making the really astute point that it gives people this false understanding that anyone can write. And I think real serious writers are probably the only people who believe not everyone can write. Not everyone can do it. With the rise of AI, people I've seen just all over the online square, people actually believe they're actually in this delusion. They think they can do it now that they have AI, and it's like you never thought to do it yourself, or maybe you thought to do it yourself, and then you're like, no, I'm not committed. And I have never seen I've never seen so many excuses. Now, like I feel really there lately. I've felt really grateful for my music teaching job because I feel like music, the ability to play a musical instrument, the ability to sing, is like the last bastion of homing in and perfecting your craft. So we could talk about AI. I feel like there's way more to talk about. But I'm gonna grab some water real quick and see if I have anything else to say about the art posers. One sec. I can't imagine. I do want to say something too. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine the art grift going so far, meaning for so long. I really think within the next decade, I think we're gonna have a renaissance of some kind. I think we're gonna have a cultural renaissance, and we're gonna have an artistic renaissance. Maybe we'll even have a humanities renaissance of sorts, because things, as far as technology is concerned, I am not, as I said before, I'm not against technology. I love technology. I work in SuperCollider, I work in Logic Pro. I love electronic music. I will always love electronic music. I will always love synthesizers, and I will always love blending the acoustic instrument, my voice, my violin, maybe some piano in the future. I will always love blending the acoustic with the electronic. And then maybe even doing a little bit of electroacoustic in the future. Electroacoustic, if you don't know, it's using the material, the physical, like a violin, and then using digital signal processing and making it something else. I did that in college for a little bit, but just I do love I do love technology very, very much. But the abuse of technology is where I'm having a hard time with, because it enables these people who claim they're artists, or who claim they're very serious in making the alternative to mainstream media, and it's like, what you have produced has not been good. That's one thing. The art poser saying, "Well, I am a writer. I am a comic book artist," and it's like, you're not. You're not. I am a novel writer, and I'm like, no, you're not. Um, and then with AI, even people who have written professionally in the past, and they embrace AI as a means to getting stuff out there faster, obviously, and getting ideas out. Now, if you have to use AI to generate a melody, that's not your melody. You didn't compose that. That's pretty obvious. Like, no, I just use AI to get ideas. Like how much, or how limited is your imagination? Because you should be, if you're a real artist and you do it all the time, to say nothing of writer's block or whatever, I get stumped a little bit from time to time, but if you're in the flow every single day, ideas just come to you. They just do. And people say, not everyone has that ability, sound engraver. It's like, maybe they would if they just really worked at it, really stretched their imagination, really experimented. And, I was talking about AI last week a little bit, more AI nonsense. And I did forget, there was a story I forgot to say before the stream. I came upon an article a couple weeks ago. Maybe you had seen this. I don't know her full name, but I think her last name is MacDonald. And it's a British writer, I think. I think she's a novelist. I can't quite remember. But she was saying that, she was heavily scrutinized because what she had published recently was, I think, a novel, some longer work. And in the middle of the work, there was an AI prompt. And she got incredible backlash over that, and rightfully so. Don't be mean-spirited. I don't want anyone to be mean-spirited. I guess she got a lot of 1 stars for that, and I think it was in the middle of her novel or her work, whatever work that was. And then basically, I think the prompt was along the lines of, let me write in this other writer style. So I have this scene and I want it to write it in this other writer style. Forgive me, I don't have the article, but maybe you've seen this piece of news. And I believe in the article, I think there are a few articles out there of this story. I believe in the one that I read, it was more, she was saying, she was trying to defend herself in this way. She was saying, well, weren't you enjoying the story before you encountered that prompt in the middle of the story? Because if you were enjoying it, then it doesn't matter. And I'm sorry, that's horrible if you think that. You were enjoying this piece of art. You were enjoying this story before you knew it was AI assisted, or I used AI to write this story. If you enjoyed the story without knowing, why does that change you enjoying the story now that you know? And really the scenario is equivalent to, well, this is basically what I would say to that. It's like, let's say you're at an art exhibition and you see this piece of art and you're just fixated. It's just the best thing you've ever seen in that museum or in the world. And you meet the person who claims that they had made that art. And you congratulate them, you applaud them, and you just can't get enough of that art. Maybe they have some other examples. Maybe they have some other art pieces, and you're just like, I can't get enough. I'm going to follow you. And then you come to realize later that that art piece, and maybe several other pieces of art, was actually not done by that artist that person you congratulated, but was done by another uncredited person. Like that other person, person B. You gave person A your applause, and person B was actually the real artist in the room. And it's like saying person A saying, well, you still like this piece of art, you know? So you still enjoy, like you feel jilted almost, and you're like, well, you still like this piece of art, but you're associating a bad experience with it because someone unjustly took credit for that piece of art. And it's like, well, yeah, but I need to, give credit where credit's due. I will enjoy this piece of art, but now I have this bad experience with this piece of art, and I need to give person B the actual credit. It's the same thing. You learning a horrible truth is going to taint the experience. Maybe not taint the art piece itself, but maybe that wasn't even the best example. But that was the example I just mentally came up with. It's like the AI prompt. Yeah, okay. So you enjoyed my story. Maybe you thought I wrote it, but you didn't know AI wrote it. But what does it matter if you found out that AI wrote it? You still enjoyed the story. It's like, but you didn't write it. See, part of the human experience is where people really enjoy a piece of work is like what that person wrote it. That person did it. They didn't have someone working in the basement for them, uncredited, neglected, unknown. Like, and I'm not saying studios in the past haven't done that. Like, I'm not saying this behavior has not happened before AI. Certain artists may have had studios full of different people, full of different artists who were not credited. But like the thing is, like, I think everyone, no matter how far back in history this misbehavior, this bad behavior has gone, I think people just need to be credited for their actual work. Am I the only person with that line of logic? I mean, you tell me. But so this McDonald writer, she basically tried to defend herself, saying, "Well, why don't you enjoy the piece anymore? You were enjoying it before." It's like, well, we enjoyed it in part because we thought you wrote it. And here's my take on that too: is like, why don't people, writers, especially writers, because it seems like AI is plaguing the writer world more than anything, but even though music is suffering under that influence as well, why don't writers and composers come out and say this music album was AI assisted or AI generated, or this book is AI assisted? Why don't they just come out? Like, why do they have to hide it? Why, if it's so good and if it doesn't need to be defended, why are you keeping it hidden? Why are you keeping the fact hidden that this particular story was AI assisted? And like, maybe you wrote books in the past, but if you are a writer, even if you're a professional writer, even if you make this your vocation or have had this as your line of income, if you start using AI to write the stuff for you, you're no longer a writer. The action of writing is not part of your experience anymore. And people, reasonably so, they get mad. They get mad. They want your words again. So I'm probably beating around the bush just for a little bit, but that's what it is. All right. Sorry, 1 sec. George Barrett says, we are a bit like God in all his ways. He is eternal. Thus, relatively, so are we. Sound engraver. Yes, thank you. Yeah, be eternally minded. Let's see. I think I missed this, George Barrett. You say, I recall an old interview with the lyricist lamenting writing one song at a bad time in life, saying everything is not, quote, dust in the wind, which is a pretty song, but it has a pretty empty message. We are all created in God's image. Yeah, imagination. Yeah. Ace Moak says, Alan Moore is eccentric, to say the least, but man, he knows what he's talking about when it comes to writing. The worst thing I could say about him is the concept of Lost Girls, which made me say, what the F? I don't know anything about his stuff. I just know he writes. That said, I think people, even people like him, would cease to be writers if they used ghostwriters or AI. Yeah. There's just something sweet about doing it yourself. I think also, I think things like the art posers, the grifting, I think will come to a head, and I think it will diminish over time, maybe over the next 5 to 10 years. I think that's in part to do with the. I think there's going to be some revolt against the abuse of technology. We're seeing the abuse of technology on all fronts. We're seeing works being stolen from, and people claiming something that's not theirs. And I think it's so ubiquitous. It's just so pervasive that I think people can stomach it for so long. I know the AI bros think this, it's inevitable. AI is forever. I have I have not really a theory, but I do speculate that it won't last forever. I do speculate that it will cause a lot of technical problems, a lot of energy problems, a lot of moral problems. Well, it's already caused a lot of ethical and moral problems. And humanity can only stomach so much of that before there will be movements against AI, if there's not already movements. And as far as this is kind of what I wanted to talk about with the YouTube. I was about to say YouTube legacy media. I kind of want to talk about YouTube legacy. Let's talk about this, and and this will be a long, well, not long, but I'll end the stream with this. I think it could be its own rant. I think people who have a large YouTube following, who have a lot of clout, I think I've been seeing examples of lack of self-awareness where they think they're so big, that they're so famous, but YouTube fame is not the same as artistic fame of like the 1950s or the 1940s. Like no matter how many millions of subscribers you have on YouTube, you're not going to be Peter Jackson, or even going back further, you're not going to be Charles Dickens, Ernest Hemingway, H.G. Wells, my recent fangirling H.G. Wells. You're not going to be those people just because you have millions or hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Prof we were walking one day and he was putting it this way. It's like, you know what? Like 1 million subscribers is just 1 million people at once, maybe bots too, at 1 million people that at one point hit subscribe. Like that's one moment where they hit subscribe and then maybe they forget about you. I mean, really, it's all to do with the viewers, but even with a large viewership, even with a large following there, it's like your opinion is only going to be entertaining for so long. Now, people do move on. People have a shift in interest. People think, oh, I'm kind of done with. I mean, I've done that with podcasts. It's like, oh, I know your podcast. Like I have followed podcasts where they were starting out, and now they've gotten really, really popular. And it's a time where I'm not following them. It's like, oh yeah, cool. You're really popular now, but I've just lost interest in what you guys have to say. No ill will. I'm not against them or anything, but it's like I have moved on. People will move on. Their interests will change. Life changes, life circumstances will change their routine. They won't always be following you. And I get the sense that YouTube, like very famous YouTubers, don't get the sense of that. Like I think they think, well, I am the next Peter Jackson, I am the next Jonathan, what's his name? John Carpenter. I have the same amount of views or same amount of readers. And it's like, well, readers are different, but YouTube sensations, they come and they go. Who talks about PewDiePie anymore? No one. Like Mr. Beast is coming and going. Like, I don't know who he is really. And I think people just have this like false sense of like I am eternal. Like my YouTube fame is in and of itself legacy. It's like it's not going to be. It's going to change with the wind. People change, their interests change, and even more, and this is the more practical, technical side, your fame rests on the infrastructure of Silicon Valley, on the infrastructure of Google or YouTube. If something should happen where YouTube is just not, like, something could happen where YouTube is just not operational. It could go down right now on my stream. Maybe my stream will be canceled right now. That'd be funny. But it could just turn off at the flip of a switch. All the infrastructure behind the world of YouTube could shut down in a minute, in a day. And if it's indeterminate or even permanent, you're gone. Your people will move on. They will move to different ways, forms of entertainment by necessity. They'll have to say, "Oh, I gotta watch something else. I gotta read something else," and they'll do it. They'll find their avenues. They'll find new avenues. You are just an avenue to move on. Now, I love YouTube as a platform to promote my stuff and share my opinions and stuff. I really like the YouTube experience, but I don't have a false sense like, well, I'm going to be this famous YouTuber who will sell a lot of books and sell a lot of music. It's like, I've even seen really small name channels, like channels with my viewership, channels with my amount of subscribers, who think because they go on famous or bigger YouTuber names, like I have seen. Okay, let me put it this way. I've seen famous YouTubers, I've seen their viewership drop on live streams. I see their numbers drop because little YouTubers are kind of leeching off of their fame. And it's like, we don't want to hear you. We want to hear the bigger YouTuber. He's got a bigger following for a reason. He's very interesting to listen to. And these smaller YouTubers think, well, if I collaborate with big name channels, I'm gonna have the same amount of clout and the same amount of views and stuff like that. It's like, no, people, they might watch you respectfully, like, well, okay, you're on this person's show, but and you might get some subscribers from collaborating with bigger names, but like if you're not interesting, you're not gonna get the views. It's just as simple as that. And so not only do famous YouTubers have this false sense of celebrity status, but the little YouTubers, they're like like, well, I'm going to get 10,000 subscribers now because I'm on a person with 50,000 or 100,000. It's like that's not how YouTube works. YouTube is. It's kind of complicated. I'll end with this. Will I end or will I never end? I'm already losing viewership. It's pale now, or it's dim. Let me try that again. So a false sense of celebrity status. It's not the same as being a famous filmmaker. You're never going to be Christopher Nolan, even though I don't really care for him as a filmmaker. But you're never going to have that clout just because you have 2 million followers. And I've seen it. Boy, oh boy, have I seen it. I have seen YouTubers with over 4 million subscribers make a very bad social engagement decision, and their fans will turn on them in a flip of a switch. So be careful, famous YouTubers. You don't have the same celebrity status you think you have. Where was I going with this too? Oh, yeah. Prof and I were talking about this. It's like, we're happy that we have the channels that we do have. We're happy to make a few dollars here and there. We're very happy that we're monetized. We're happy that you guys want to listen to to our opinions and stuff. But we've come to the more we branch out of popular culture now, the more we kind of deviate. And we broke off. It wasn't deviate. We didn't take a detour. We just broke off from the mainstream entertainment and stuff. We didn't want anything to do with Disney after a few years. DC, Marvel, whatever the case is. We started pursuing, really started pursuing different art pieces, literature. Prof is a movie watcher. I'm a terrible movie watcher. He knows that. But he's discussed films. He's done book reviews. He's done comic reviews. He's going to do more reviews of media that he likes. I'm the same way. I'd like to talk about more literature that I like, in particular science fiction. And these kinds of streams. So his book reviews, his movie reviews, my talking about art, because I think art is so important. My talking about art is never going to be as popular as talking about how bad Disney Star Wars is. It's just not. But my interest in Disney Star Wars is less than zero. It's in the negative. And we do understand where our interests go with YouTube. We do understand we're not going to get the views. We're just not. That's just the way the ball bounces. And it's because we don't serve the algorithm, the bot overlords. You know, we're not serving the algorithm. We're saying what we want to say because we feel like saying it, whether it's popular or not. Yeah. Would we like a lot of views? Would we like more subscribers? Would we like more of the AdSense revenue in the super chats? Who wouldn't? But we don't want to talk about anything that does not interest us, you know. So whatever we say, however we say it, whether we say it really well or whether we're just kind of going off the cuff, we say what we want to say because we're interested in it, and that's it. We are interested in it, and it's a lot more relaxing experience. We're not in any drama. We're not any communities that are doing any drama. We just like what we like. George Barrett asks, this woman writer had written her own books before. Did you think you said she's not? Well, she's a ghostwriter by profession, and I think she's an editor by profession. But I only saw one of her videos, so I don't know if she's written her own books. Then her recent AI insert creates an extreme dilemma. Oh, the McDonald lady. Yeah. I think her last name is McDonald. Okay, so let me say this again. George Barrett says, this woman writer, had written her own books before? So he said, I think she has. I think she already has had a readership. I should look into that a little bit more, though. Because she wouldn't have faced such a big backlash if she was not popular. So I think she must have had some. Unless she rose to fame with only AI-assisted novels, that could very well be so too. I don't know. I should look into this before. The writer's last name was McDonald. So you ask, well, then her recent AI insert creates an extreme dilemma, and her defense is an even crazier conundrum. Wouldn't buy her coming work. No, she's broken. She broke the trust. Like, she has readers can't trust her now. You know, you gotta have people trust that you did it yourself. It's like a breach of ethics, really. It's like, wow, you're maybe you're not directly lying, but you are deceiving your readership. If your readers go in believing those are your words. Absolutely. Yeah, so I think this was more of kind of like an off the cuff kind of rant. Hopefully I made sense. Hopefully I said everything I wanted to say, but that usually doesn't happen. Well, sometimes that doesn't happen on stream because it's like in the moment. But so just kind of in conclusion, I do believe we're going to be going into a new renaissance, probably within the next 5 to 10 years, or immediately, depending on how fast this collides. Because I do not suppose that people are going to laugh at me. They laughed at me about Ahsoka Tano and Dave Filoni, and now they're eating their words. No, I think people give AI too much credit. I think AI will not be able to sustain itself, not for very long, for a number of reasons. I have my theories, but maybe that will be for another stream. Give it to 2030, if that. I don't suppose AI will be sustaining itself in the income vocation world, at least not in the artistic world. Unless there's some really bad government intervention that's that's going to happen that will make me change my mind. But I have hope that people will bring the humanity back into arts and humanities. I think people will be doing their own stuff again. They don't like a con man. They don't like a con artist. They don't like, people do not like grifters. They don't like hypocrites. And they certainly do not like people who give them a piece of literature. Those people come to find that they didn't write that piece of literature. That's only going to be tolerated for so long before people will throw in the towel and say, I'm done. You don't have my trust anymore. I'm going to move on to someone else who will earn my trust. And there you go. So why don't we end it there? Let's see. Just in the works, going into the summer. I'm taking a week off my music because I worked so hard on my music. But I will in the summer, starting next week, I'll start my track. I'll get back into my track, Desert Solace. And I'd like to release 2 more singles this summer, Desert Solace and a single. It's an instrumental. I don't think it'll have violin in it, but I've really come to love this track. It's a big track. It's like almost 9 minutes long, and it's very epic and very relaxing at the same time. It's called Dusk Among the Dunes, and I really, really love it. It's the structure's there. I need to add a couple more things, and I need to start mixing and mastering it. But I probably will release that into August. So I'd like to release Desert Solace in the month of July, and Dusk Among the Dunes in August, and then working on my EP again because I have like a 4-track EP with violin. And then working on my stories, working on my science fiction writing. I love being in that world. So I think we will, let's I guess end it with George Barrett. You say small channels like yours, meaning those who take the time and put the work to create good art related stuff, are the ones who make the best commentary. Yes, good. I'm going to end it with that. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, guys, you guys have a very good weekend. Thank you for the hour and a half fun time. Have a good break. And I will, as you say, I will see you next Sunday. Have a good rest of your weekend, and keep producing and preserving that good art you love. And I'll catch you later.